Welcome to this midweek reflection. Where do hymn writers find their inspiration for their hymnody? Well, it varies. Sometimes it's born out of a conviction of faith, or perhaps an experience they've had, a sense of the presence of God in their lives, or further at work in the world, or expressed in the beauty of the natural world around us. Sometimes, however, it comes out of an experience in one's own personal life. And as we discovered with the hymn, Now the Green Blade Riseth, last week, it was a hymn that came out of the experience of the hymn writer's loss, bereavement, early on in his married life, and then the process of healing that came around after that, which inspired his hymn. Sometimes, however, hymns come out of the social conflicts and turmoil of the world we live in, and that is their inspiration, the cultural and political context in which our lives of faith are set. Especially when there is conflict between our hope for what Jesus called the realm of God's heaven present on earth, juxtaposed with the reality of the injustice of the world we often find. This week's hymn, which is another Easter hymn, is one such hymn born in that context of the dissonance between the promise of God and the reality of the injustice of the world as it is. Christ is Alive, Let Christians Sing was written for Easter Sunday 1968. Just 10 days earlier, on April the 4th, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had been assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. The hymn writer, Brian Rennie, an English congregational minister, was faced on the one hand with the devastating news of the violent assassination of King, leader of the non-violent African American civil rights movement, and on the other, the responsibility to preach the good news of the resurrection on Easter Day. The dissonance between these two was marked for him, and it inspired the hymn that he wrote. When he was interviewed some time ago about this hymn, Wren noted, "I tried to express an Easter hope out of that terrible event, in words which could be more widely applied, and wrote, 'Christ is alive,' because so many of our available hymns spoke of Easter as a glorious event long ago, far away, high above." Wren's point, I think, is this. In this season of Easter, it is not an historical happening we are celebrating, but a current event. And that's why in the pattern of many Easter hymns, Wren wrote in the present tense. The risen Christ is as real and present for us in our time as he was to his first disciples. To emphasize that point, in the second verse of his hymn, Wren clarifies that resurrection was not for one place and time historically, but for all places and all times. He writes, "Christ is alive, no longer bound to distant years in Palestine, but saving, healing, here and now, and touching every time and place." Surely this is the heart of our Easter faith and our conviction that the one who suffered and gave his life for love has been liberated from death. And all through time and history, including in our lives and time, we know him to be present with us, inspiring us to work for justice, strengthening us to care for others, encouraging us to serve the needs of the world and its peoples. In the third verse, Wren really focuses in on that event of King's assassination and the dissonance and the distress that gave the hymn its beginning. He writes, In every insult, rift and war, where colour, scorn or wealth divide, Christ suffers still, yet loves the more, and lives even where hope has died. King's assassination has become emblematic not only of the just struggle for justice of African Americans and of many other peoples of colour against racism and injustice. In many ways, it has become emblematic of the struggle against oppression of many people. And of course, King and others like him, despite the appalling aggression and oppression raged against them, stuck to their own principles, their creed of non-violence and loving the other and the neighbour. Surely, Jesus lives on in the life and example of women and men such as these, and continue as they do to inspire us. And so we reach the penultimate verse of Wren's hymn, and one I find so helpful and hopeful after we have faced beforehand the reality of the world we live in. He writes, "Women and men in age and youth can feel the Spirit, hear the call, and find the way, the truth, the life, revealed in Jesus, freed for all." Still in our time, in our communities, emboldened by the Easter story and its good news of God's promise, women and men do hear the call of Jesus in their own lives, to seek first God's realm and its vision of compassion and justice for the reality of our own time and our present. This Easter season, all over the world, people like us are being inspired and drawn into the story of Jesus, emboldened to give of themselves in the service of others, and like Christ himself, love and serve the world. May you know this same Lord Jesus present with you in this Easter season, in this present we call our today. And may we all hear his call to follow, to love, to serve.